order that might exist in that country. It's completely run by gangs. If you, I was down there one year during the election, and we were at a pizza place one night, and we ended up sharing a table with a bunch of UN soldiers. And when they found out that we go to Cité Soleil without armed guards, they couldn't believe it. They thought we were nuts. And my theater, the very first trip I went on, had said that, you know, they really just have an understanding in Cité Soleil, and that there had been a woman who she was wearing a cross necklace, and it had gotten ripped off. And she'd gotten back in the top and, you know, told our translators what had happened. And behind the scenes, this was taken care of. Well, so the Haitian staff went into Cité Soleil, and they've got their connections in there and who they work with in there, and basically said, if this would ever happen again, if we feel like, you know, any of our people are threatened in any way, harmed in any way, anything stolen, we won't be back. The water it'll be done. And that team went back later in the week to an entirely different water stop, and that woman got her necklace back. And so there's definitely this element of respect. The water means a lot. To me, the amazing thing that God has done with that is that in the last, it was about a year. It's been open for about a year now, and then the school since the fall. God built a church and a school in Cité Soleil on 17, which is, so they're all the wards are, I'm gonna get emotional. All the wards are numbered, and 17 is one of the poorest wards in Cité Soleil. And there's the beach. So we used to go there, it'd be one of the stops, and we'd take the kids out to the beach. And when I say beach, we're talking 16 feet of trash and other things that you don't want to know. And we'd hear the story about basically how that beach of trash was formed. And we'd sing with the kids. And that land, no one really owns the land there. It's just sort of, I guess, what it is. Cité Soleil is just what it is. It's like 5 square miles of gang-run area. That land was given to Healing Haiti to build a church and a school on it. And so there's now a church and a school at 17 at Cité Soleil. And so I think that that's kind of a cool example of, you know, what can be done when you just faithfully trust that there's a purpose behind that water. And when you talk about the culture of, you know, going in there, and how they perceive us, it's interesting in Cité Soleil. The longer I go, I sometimes question that. I think most of the people are very appreciative, and they see, I think, the intent that everything comes with. The kids love us. It's sometimes awkward. There's sometimes this feeling of like they think you're a celebrity, and so you try to dispel that in some way. Like, we're not riding in on, you know, our white horse to save the day. You know, the kids, they love to like, they'll always touch your hair and touch your skin. And so especially if they touch my skin and are looking at my skin and theirs, I, you know, will always say same and try to tell them it's the same as theirs. And if they touch my hair, then I'll ask if I can touch their hair. And, you know, it gets them to giggle and whatever. You know, I think that there are, you know, some of the adults there that are probably skeptical, they're hardened. But I think the longer that you're there with the right intention, you see some of those barriers come down. I think everything that we attempt to do is to go in and learn from them and follow their lead rather than come in and try to change everything. Yeah?
Kind of in light of some of the things you just said, what do you see as being a need for long-term missions compared to short-term missions in Haiti?
That's a great question. So I guess I look at that from a couple of standpoints. From a standpoint of long-term, they have so many groups that come in there short-term and give immediate relief and then leave. And so there's like this influx and then this leave. And so I think there's a lot of mistrust of missions organizations and different NGOs because how long are they there? And so that has been an important thing to me, to align with an organization that is not this is not temporary. This is long-term as long as God wants it there. That they're gonna be in country, and that it's really not the Americans who are down there in long-term positions, so there's some year-long and some 2-year-long and whatnot. They are there as missionaries. They're not taking jobs away, and it's all about development of the Haitian people and the employment of Haitians. So there's an element of you don't want to do what they can do for themselves, but if you're down there to help bring them along, or walk alongside them and help them get some things started, I think that's would be the goal versus being down there. So for instance, to take a team down there of long-term, say you're gonna take a medical team down, to take a long-term medical team down, that really takes away, I think, a little bit from what they're trying to do when they've got Haitian physicians and Haitian medical staff who are the ones who are truly there long-term. I think that mix, I think there's definitely need for both. I think from an organization standpoint, the long-term is necessary, absolutely. Yeah.
After experiencing like this completely different part of the world, how has that impacted like your everyday life here, the way you perceive things?
Good question. Profoundly. I have never seen poverty like that, and there's an absolute difference in first world poverty and third world poverty. It has made me more aware, though, of poverty here and some of the needs here. I think it has changed my worldview in some respects and reinforced other areas of conviction. A thing that is, I think it has made me more compassionate, both home and away. It has also, a thing that's challenging coming back every time is, I struggle more with compassion here than I do there. It is so easy to love in Haiti. And it's a bigger challenge here. This is where I really get more convicted on it, and have to work on it every time. Part of that is, if you have a job in Haiti, it doesn't matter what it is, you are so thankful for that. You do not take that for granted in any way. They've got over 70% unemployment rate. So to have any job is just this coveted, amazing thing. To get to go to school, there's no true public education. And so if you have the opportunity to go to school, I mean, there's nobody slacking off in school in Haiti, because it's not free, and it is such a privilege to be able to go to school there. So I think those are things that, just have stuck with me a lot, that how hardworking they are and how much they want to work. And you come back to a lot of privilege where people take for granted some of the privileges and things we have, and that can be hard and challenging.
What are some of the biggest areas of improvement you've seen within the community down there?
That's another,
where you guys have maybe helped kickstart something and then they've completely taken it over and you guys don't even really need to do anything.
That's a great question, and I'm up here kind of giving a commercial for Healing Haiti, but that's all right. So really, that's what they have been about. So the medical clinic would be a great example of that, where that's run on their own. Grace Village is, Grace Village is a school, an orphanage, and it's an orphanage in a way different sense. A feeding center, they have a farm, started off as an aquaponics farm because that's what somebody here thought would be really sustainable down there, and they went down there and tried it, and it wasn't completely not successful, but it's just not the way farming is done in Haiti. And so they have since learned that farming needs to be done differently to be more long-term successful in Haiti, so they're converting it. And this was really meant to be able to feed those within Grace Village. they have a feeding center, and then the medical and dental clinic. And then just down the hill from Grace Village is the church. There's a church there. And then they just opened here this winter, Flurry Bakery and Restaurant, which is a commercial bakery and restaurant that they will employ over 100 patients in eventually. And initially, it started off as there were brick ovens built within Grace Village, and the thought was, I think it was Pizza Luce or somebody came down and really taught, okay, how to use the brick ovens, and the thought was they could have people more of a small business type of loan, and they could learn how to use the ovens, do a small business loan, bake enough bread there to take down to the markets to sell, so more like an individual type of business. And that grew, and it grew into this vision with the commercial bakery. And so they now have this commercial bakery, which they will sell to other NGOs and schools and organizations. And then what we just learned about, there's going to be a farm. There's going to be a full farm in Haiti that's part of Healing Haiti, which will employ hundreds of patients. And so that's kind of the next step. So when I go down there from time to time, this is a thing that's both exciting and hard about going to Haiti. When you go into certain areas like Cité Soleil, really nothing has changed. The church and the school being there is huge. That's a huge new change. But the individual family situations currently, those haven't changed. And you don't see growth or change or improvement per se from time to time. You go to some of the smaller partner orphanages, and their conditions are the same. They're still kind of be able to maintain. You drive through certain streets, and it's the same. You go into Grace Village, or you go into some of these other areas, and you see the growth. And every time I've been down there, you see they give us the number of how many Haitians are employed, and it is always drastically higher than the time before. And then they have been very open to, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, but we're going to learn from those, and we'll reverse course, and we'll take guidance from the Haitians and learn how to do things better for how it's effective in country. And so that's one of the things that's come out of that is the orphanage. So when they first opened Grace Village, it really was an orphanage, and the first kids that moved into Grace came from another government-run orphanage, horrible conditions and the whole thing. So they move into these beautiful dormitories, and there's a playground there, and it's, this feeding center. And really what they've learned over time with that over the last few years is that kids shouldn't be raised in institutions. And so they now have 4 homes that were built within Grace Village, and they have Haitian mommies and poppies who essentially are people who love their own people and are willing to foster in a sense, and they live there. Some of them have their own biological children, and there's 2 houses of boys and 2 houses of girls, and these kids are now being raised in family. And so they have family chores and family dinner together, and people to help with their homework, and discipline by these parents, and instruction by their family. And they've seen just amazing things come from that, just in behavioral issues with the children, how the kids are doing in school. One of the stories, and I probably am going to cry telling this, but one of the stories that always gets me, I was down there in October of 14, and there were 4 new little boys that had come to Grace. And when kids first come, they live in the dorm, and they're kind of vetted, and they've got advocates that are down there really determining, are these poverty orphans? Are they true orphans, meaning do they not have any living relatives, or is it just that their family can't afford to take care of them? And then if they have family, what's the situation? Do they want them? And they will try to help that situation if they can, because they want kids to be reunited with their families if it's what is best for them. So as they're vetting, so these 4 little guys were living up in the dorms, and they are just little guys, and so they stole everyone's heart. They're the cutest kids on earth. And forward ahead to the next October. So I'm back there in October, and one of our first nights there, they came in to tell us that we were going up to Grace the next day, and one of the in-country leaders down there came in and was telling the group a little bit about grace and said, okay, so the homes have made a huge impact. And they had just, the previous week, there had been this other new group of kids that had come to Grace and had been in the dorms and had kind of been vetted, and I don't know exactly how long that takes, but they had just moved these kids into the homes the week before. And they said as they were walking the one kid down, he was really nervous and scared. And Daniel, who was one of the little guys from the year before, who had been in the very same situation the year before, like came out of the house, walked up to this kid, puts his arm around him and says, "You're not an orphan anymore, now you have a family." See, I cry every time I tell that story. I just think it's amazing. And that's what they have seen multiple times from those kids, that they have that sense of belonging now. So that is something that I think is cool. So you see how they started and what they started with, and then how it has grown or how it has changed, because they've just been very open to change and open to the leading. So, yeah. Knew you guys would make me cry. Anything else? If anyone wants to go to Haiti with me, let me know.
We might.